A man who murdered a female police officer over 40 years ago has been found to be responsible for the cold case murders of 4 women in Denver, Colorado, between 1978 and 1981. Each of the cold case victims were lewdly assaulted and suffered multiple stab wounds. The first victim was 33-year-old Madeleine Liverday, who was a writer and ecologist who published a book and wrote for magazines. On the morning of the 7th of December, she was feeding her 2 young children breakfast in the home, located in the 1600 block of Poplar Street, Denver, when a man came to her door and confronted her, before forcing his way in and repeatedly stabbing her. The next victim murdered was 53-year-old Dolores Baharis, who was walking to work at just after 7 a.m. on the 10th of August 1980. She worked in the cafeteria section of the Fairmont Hotel, located near 18th and Welton Streets in Denver. She worked during the summer while spending time visiting her family. This was to be her last day working there, before moving out of state back to El Paso in Texas. On the way to the hotel, she was brutally attacked and stabbed, and her lifeless body was found lying in the street in the 500 block of East 17th Street. Dolores' family asked for the police not to release her picture. The third victim was 27-year-old Gwendolyn Harris. She often visited the Polo Club Lounge, which was located near the downtown streets of 15th and Tremont in Denver. She was last seen at the lounge on the evening of the 20th of December 1980. The following morning, at around 10:45 a.m., she was found stabbed to death at the intersection of East 47th Avenue and Andrews Drive in Montbello, Denver. The last cold case victim was 17-year-old Antoinette Parks, who was almost 7 months pregnant and studied at the Gateway High School in Aurora, Denver. On the 24th of January 1981, she went to her boyfriend's house near 64th Avenue and Broadway. She got into an argument with him, so she stormed off. Later that day, a garbage collector discovered her lifeless and battered body nearby in an Adams County field near a trash bin. She was initially mistaken for a mannequin. She had been stabbed 23 times on the top of her head and in her chest, and she had a stick thrust inside of her, killing her unborn child. She had defensive wounds on her hands and had scratch marks on her face from hitting the pavement while being pulled by her legs, and had tumbleweed in her hair, indicating that she had been dragged to the spot. Initially, it was thought that her boyfriend was responsible, as he was unhappy with her pregnancy, but he denied any wrongdoing, and he was later cleared. The authorities initially investigated the cases separately, but between 2013 and 2018, the Denver Police Crime Lab linked the 4 women by the same suspect's DNA. However, the attacker was unknown. In mid-2021, the investigators used the DNA to track down a relative of the killer and identified Joe Michael Irvin as a potential suspect. Joe, however, took his life in July of 1981. The authorities exhumed Joe's remains in late 2021 for direct DNA comparison to the crime scene evidence. In early January of 2022, Joe's DNA was found to match all 4 crimes. On the 28th of January 2022, the authorities announced that they have closed all 4 cold cases and identified Joe as responsible for all 4 murders. Police records show these weren't the only crimes Joe committed, however. On the 27th of June 1981, Joe was pulled over for a traffic violation by 26-year-old Aurora police officer Deborah Sue Kaur, who'd been with the police force for 1 year. She stopped him at the intersection of East Colfax Avenue and Moline Street in Aurora, Colorado, and when she attempted to handcuff him, Joe grabbed a gun and shot her. Joe then wounded a male bystander by shooting him in the back after he tried helping the officer. The authorities quickly traced Joe's license plate down to his Aurora home, where he was found attempting to saw off the handcuffs off his wrist, and he was arrested. While awaiting trial for Deborah's murder, Joe took his life in prison the following month.